Hi everyone, thank you so much for those of you who have come today and those of you who are watching on repeat. This is Finding the Why. What is Finding the Why? Finding the Why is a podcast set up by artists Sarah Hardy and Kirstie Tebbs to bring together artists to collaborate and share ideas and to also understand your health and well-being as well as your art practice. And so tonight we are talking about life changes because we have had some pretty big life changes thrown our way, and we're going to look into how art has helped people to be able to do that. But first, Sarah, how was your week? Well, 3 weeks.
My 3 weeks has been like mind-boggling, really. I've been here, there, and everywhere, but hopefully productive. I was away on business trying to pull together ideas and kind of, certain things are kind of more solidified, can't even speak, solidified in my mind than others, shall we say. I was fortunate enough to go, although I didn't actually go into the museum, but I went to the Nivoli Museum at Sunset, and there are a lot of sculptures outside and around the actual museum, so that was kind of quite lovely. Just sat there having a coffee at sunset, watching the sun go down, watching the shadows cast over the sculptures. I spent a lot of time in and out of the Nuragas of Sardinia, so quite historic. You can see some of my flights there, and then you can hear my dog barking in the background, which is this one here. He's very noisy. So yeah, back to the UK, working hard, pulling the podcast together again and doing treatments. What else? Even managed to kind of fit in a little bit of extra sketching, which is never a bad thing. And we start my wellness, my creative balanced wellness walks on Saturday as well. So it's been literally busy. But there you go. How was yours, Kirstie?
My week has been very interesting. 3 weeks. I spent the first 2 weeks really ill. I got my daughter's cold, which developed into laryngitis. So I lost my voice. It then went to tonsillitis. And then she got glandular fever. So I also got glandular fever. So my 2 weeks were very, very interesting, being ill and having to work. But I have managed to reel it all back this past week. I have actually done some artwork. This is my first artworks and ideas and sketches that I have made in probably months, just because, again, life changes. So I haven't been able to necessarily get my energy up to be able to make artwork. But again, so I've made sketches of artworks I want to make, installations I want to try out. And the bottom 2 photos is what my living room has been looking like while I'll be making the backgrounds of large panels of paper. And yeah, so that is probably 6 of the 7 nights my living room has looked like, which with a very young child is very fun. And I also shared a meme of a cat and how the cat takes all your worries away, because having my cat literally makes me feel so much better at night. So yeah, that's been my week. Definitely, 3 weeks, definitely interesting, definitely varied.
Cool. And I love the work. Thank you. This is the kind of size I need to get to again. But well done, it's looking awesome.
Thank you. You just got to roll it out in your living room and make everyone tiptoe around it.
Including the cat. Don't know how many times the cat has walked through my oil palette and straight over my white bedding.
Yeah. Luna literally come out from under the couch. She forgot that my artwork was there, so she come out, stuck her head out, put her chin all in the ink, put herself back under the couch, and then tried to snake her way on top, which ended up with her falling into all of the ink. So yeah, definitely been interested. And there's a couple of special days today. Do we know what special days there are today?
There are a few. So let me see. So first one up was Apple Day. So I don't know whether that is in the virtual kind of apple product, or I should have just brought an apple along, shouldn't I?
Just like
Yes, apple day, let's all eat apples. But funnily enough, I did think, oh, I could really kind of fancy going out and picking some, you know, proper apples from the local community orchard, and making stewed apple and yeah, stuff like that. Nice and warming on such a cold day. And the next one is conflict resolution day. We have count your buttons day, if you feel so inclined, and reptile awareness day, which is a nice nod to the animals again. So yeah, there are days this week, or for today, should I say.
Fantastic. So if any of those days resonate with you guys at home, please do make sure to put it in the comments, any of your stories related to them. And so this week we'll go on to the news articles. The first article I'll throw over to Sarah.
So this article is from Linda, Expressive Arts Therapy, and it's called Working Through Change and Transition with Art. And it's basically about what art brings to our lives and how it can enable us to kind of grow through the change, or the changes that are surrounding us, and take inspiration from it. Kind of allowing movement and growth. You know, they do say, in fact, it's so true. Change is inevitable. It is one of the hard and fast facts of life that we cannot avoid. It's there. It happens to the best. Well, it happens to everybody, from the most minute kind of, you know, unobserved change to, you know, much bigger, dramatic, life-changing changes. And really what we start to see is how we deal with it that kind of, you know, helps us grow and kind of move on and be inspired, or kind of, yeah, the way it shapes us, I suppose. So yeah, you can embrace it or you can fight it, and it's not always easy, but yeah, it's, you know, change, it's just completely beyond our control. And it can unite us very, very positively, or it can, you know, it can kind of tear us apart. And we always hope that changes in the way we perceive them is going to kind of, well, yeah, I suppose some people approach it with indifference, and some people allow it to kind of, you know, segregate, and then other people, they choose to see the commonalities and changes, and it kind of, you know, you start to unite with people and bond with people. It can kind of instill a bit of fear and anxiety, and stress, but again, you know, it's kind of, it's how you approach a situation. And this is one reason that we talk so much about the therapeutic value of art, because it can give you that medium to express and to, I suppose, deal with, come to terms with what's going on. You might not necessarily be able to find the words, but to be able to draw, to paint, to mold, to sculpt, to create in any form that you see fit. Some people will run for the kitchen and they'll start cooking and creating cakes or whatever. You know, it's just a case of choosing your medium and like how you need to express at the time, how you want to express at the time. Is it something that you just want to keep for yourself? Are you going to show it to the world? Are you going to give it away? And, you know, as I say, there are no right and wrong ways to do this. And again, being human, I suppose there's no right and wrong way. You cannot say we can't get stressed. We can't, you know, develop anxiety. I'm starting to waffle. Yeah, it's entirely how you deal with it. And the lovely thing about art is you've got so many elements to play with besides the different mediums. You've got the color, line, texture, shape, visual, audible, just right across the board. So it's, yeah, can't stop singing the praises of art, I'm afraid. But that's kind of it in a nutshell. So yeah, that was the first article.
Yes, I do quite like this article, because it was very short and sweet, but it had so much information packed into it, and gave a really good overview of the idea of like getting through challenges and challenging times with art, both with benefits and what it is. Yes.
Absolutely.
So the next one is Maternity and Strength, which is a multi-artist exhibition that highlights the resiliency of Indigenous women. So it was all about their experiences in the idea of colonialism and their way of sharing how resilient, painful, but also great that their histories and what they have survived through has been. It was a group exhibition. It was all about their C-sections, the life-changing, and they called themselves the Treaty 7 Artists, which was just a collaboration fronted by Miriam Fabouin. I think I've said that right. And it was also an invoice curiosity and their imagination of their maternity, of the idea of Indigenous cult, and the idea of colonialism and how it has all really hit them.
The first time was it actually in Central Library. The second time was online, and kind of incorporated a couple of more artists and spirit artists as well, actually, which is, you know, quite closely connected with Indigenous cultures. And the third one, I think, was the Arts Commons 15 Gallery, and it included a few more North American artists as well.
So why did they do this exhibition? Well, it was to show the range of different styles in their artworks, to raise awareness of the struggles that they face, to show their strength and resilience in Indigenous women. And the list just goes on. There was loads of personal reasons that they all wanted to do it for themselves or whether to showcase something. And I just, reading through this, it's so empowering to read because a lot of them had gone through quite a lot and they weren't afraid to actually discuss it just plainly through artwork, what they have had.
Absolutely. And credit to I think it's Autumn Whiteway who actually initiated this. The inspiration came to her during a C-section, believe it or not. And she was kind of, her heritage is in North America, and kind of, and her family are still living on an Indigenous reservation. And it was during lockdown, so she couldn't actually get to the family, you know, she couldn't share the birth of her new baby, and it got her thinking about what other people are going through, and especially, I suppose, within an Indigenous culture, perhaps you start to, you know, you probably start to feel quite isolated, and especially during lockdown, you know, it's kind of, if you haven't got that family unit around you, and they're miles away, then yeah, it is going to get you thinking a bit more. But amazing, I mean, a lot of the women have kind of, you know, because of the nature of it, their pieces have talked very much about kind of their experiences as mothers. One artist, let's see who it was. I've lost the point on my notes, but she spoke of the high suicide rates among Indigenous children, and very likely, I can't, you know, quote this, but very likely through people misunderstanding them and they're feeling pressured and maybe feeling isolated, I don't know. And as a mother, she wanted to make a point about that, but there have been all kinds of points raised with this exhibition, and it's really beautiful, and it kind of it makes us really want to explore this area far more, because there are a lot of cultures out there who, they're basically, you know, they're sat doing their own thing, not bothering anybody, kind of just getting on with their life, getting on with their culture, but they're lesser known and maybe not quite as well supported. So it'd be really nice to kind of find out, learn a bit more about them, and kind of, you know, just kind of be a bit more inclusive, which, you know, is never a bad thing, I don't think. So.
I agree. It'd be quite nice to do a episode based on Indigenous people and their arts, because it's just so varied and so empowering, and to see everything that they go through. and they don't really make that much of a fuss. It's just so amazing to see. And reading this article about what they had gone through, I found that actually, yes, the struggles are probably 20,000 times more than mine, but I could relate to them, especially through lockdown and having a lockdown child, where I couldn't have the father in the room with me when I gave birth, that I couldn't have him with me while I had complications or anything, and he couldn't see his child for 5 days while I was in hospital. And it is quite hard. And to think that they've gone through stuff like this plus more, my heart really does go out to them, and I would love to learn more about them. Yeah, so this article definitely really stuck with me.
And it's definitely worth reading, kind of from start to finish. As I say, it gives far more information about Autumn and her roots, and her wanting to reignite cultural practices within her own life, and even the way she named her baby was, you know, concurrent with the roots that she came from, which is so beautiful. But yeah, definitely one to take time to read.
So there are 2 articles for this week. And we really do urge you to read them, because both of them are just so beautifully written and so easy to be connected with. So definitely please do check them out. So we're going to talk a little bit about our experiences of our life changes that we have overcome, and how art has helped us through it or helped us to heal. So Sarah, you can go first.
So yeah, I mean, it's not just present change that I'm going to reference, because past change, especially the dramatic stuff, has got me to where I am now. And I suppose we're constantly evolving. We might not necessarily realize it. You know, they can be the most fractional increments of change or improvement or deterioration, but you kind of, everything's always in flux. Everything around us is always in flux. We're always in flux. And it, as I say, it's just one of those things. When I was very young, I went through a really serious illness. I lost a lot of people. And I can still remember sitting in my hospital bed with my sketchbook, and I got a tiny little set of watercolor paints, and I was just away, you know, I was in my own little world. I used to paint on glass, and it just provided that distraction. At that point, I think I used to make up designs, you know, it wasn't a case of thinking, oh, I'm going to draw this person or that person, although I did do a little bit of animal art. It was more a case of it took the edge off the current circumstances. It gave me something to focus on, and it was productive. And now I didn't think in that way at that point in time, but that's, you know, kind of reflecting and using my wisdom now, you kind of realize what it's been. And I suppose the more I did art and kind of the older I became, when I engaged in art, it became more meaningful, more purposeful. So I went through a very abstract phase, and that was much more kind of, you know, that was the work that I was producing at that point was it kind of had quite a dark edge to it, very, very emotional. But you could tell in the way I was displaying it that there was something going on, and just kind of the brush strokes and the way it was titled. And I'd write poetry and verses to go with each piece. And yeah, it depends what kind of change you're going through as to how you represent it. With me, I know I'm a burst couch, so I kind of go between things. I'll always return to something, but I will experiment constantly and kind of keep toing and throwing, which I think maybe it throws people, but I kind of know where I'm at, and that's the most important thing for me, is that I have that ability to express and to create in my own way. And it's empowering. Nobody really has to like it. Nobody has to see it. No, you know, there are some really deep, dark things in my sketchbook from a couple of years ago, and I think like I was going through what can only be described as a dark night of the soul or something. But it got so bleak, and it's kind of the stuff kind of, you know, if you look at an old wound and it's oozing pus and like yak and just disgusting stuff. And it was a bit like purging all of that kind of stuff. Now, I know as a therapist, you come to us and think, oh, you know, they've got life sorted and everything's great. But we're all work in progress. No one is 100% perfect. And life will always happen around you. Although they do say life happens for you, because, you know, that's the way you learn lessons. But yeah, it's just, for me, art is, it's almost like that. It's almost like another form of catharsis. It's like my, you know, physical activity keeps me really, really healthy, and it gets my heart rate up, it gets me a bit sweaty, and it lets me move my body like humans are meant to move. But equally, art is a catharsis as well for me, because it allows me to express, it allows me to be a bit more gentle, a bit more still, a bit more meditative. So yeah, there are all kinds of ways that I've used art to deal with change that goes on around me, and it's grown and it's shrunk accordingly, as you know, wherever I am, whether I'm traveling or whether I'm at home or whether I'm in a familiar environment or not. So yeah, that's pretty much my kind of experiences. I'd be really, really interested to know about you, Kirstie, as well.
Well, a lot of people use art to help them get through. But I've always found that when I'm going through something, I stop completely. And that is simply because of my mental health. When big things happen, I stop. And tablets don't do anything. I just completely stop. Which obviously then makes you even more mental health even worse. And then it becomes this massive cycle. But I always find one day I wake up and I go, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do something. Or I have an idea just come to me. And it kind of all just comes out at once. It's like a massive release. I don't do that one small piece. I all of a sudden have this big project that I'm going to do, and like filling up my living room floor for a couple of weeks, doing panels and stuff like that. And to me, it's almost a way of allowing myself to process what's happened and give time to myself and re-establish what I'm doing, because it almost gives me it's almost like I'm allowing myself to go back to myself and continue being who I am. And definitely I see it all the time. If I look back, something happens and I stop doing absolutely everything that I love, and I just wake up one day and that's it. I would never say anything like art helps me through. I think art helps me heal, and it helps me to just return to normal. I've been through quite a lot these past few months. Quite a lot has hit me, and I needed that everything to stop so I could process my emotions, so then I can process my healing. And I've always said to myself that my emotions never go into my artwork, because I don't use colour. So to me, emotions is colour and being and all of that. But I've recently taken the time to actually sit down and look at my work, and I actually think, no, actually my emotions are right there with it. It doesn't matter about colour. What matters is the movement and the feelings, and I look at it and I'm right there. I can see exactly what I'm going through. And I just think art is amazing that way, and everyone can use it in such different ways, to whether to get through something or whether to heal, or whether to do both. And yeah, I'll always have that love for art, because it really does help.
Yeah, I love that. I love the way that you put that as well. But yeah, it is quite a heat. And I think sometimes when you reflect on it, you kind of, you know, and it can be years down the line, you kind of start to kind of go, my God, it was there. The signs were there. And it was really healing what I was doing at that point. But I suppose when you I've had periods like that as well, where I've been so low that I couldn't bring myself to do it. I've always kind of got myself at least out the house to do some exercise, but as far as actually having the confidence to put something down on paper or canvas or something, that hasn't always come naturally to me during a crisis. And maybe that's part of me as well, kind of going between the mediums, going between writing and drawing and photography, and because sometimes you feel more confident with one than the other, and that in that way it's kind of good, and it's healthy to have a range of things around you that you can kind of turn to just to keep yourself kind of ticking over, so to speak.
Yeah, it's so true that you put it that way. I had quite a hard time as a teenager, and that was actually what threw me into being an artist, because at that time I had to do art because I was at school, but I wasn't doing it necessarily because I loved it. And I actually started going into written words because I could express myself that way and start healing myself that way, and then completely threw myself into my art. It's definitely interesting looking back at why you've made artwork and what you've made artwork for, because the reasons are there. It's just whether you actually see them.
Kind of now we're talking about this, I've been like, I wouldn't say obsessed, but like kind of constantly drawing these nuragas, and it's just like, it's like this kind of, you could, it is spiritual, it is a spiritual experience, but it's also a dark cave. And you kind of go, so what's in that dark cave? What's about to emerge from there? You know what I mean? Is there some significance behind this? But yeah, this has just been since I've been out there, but it is, I'm looking that way because I've got one beside me. But it is kind of, that they're curious. I think it's still unknown kind of exactly what they were used for, some kind of ceremonial thing, I think. But they are still shrouded in a certain amount of mystery, and the way that they're built is incredible. These great big shaped stones built on top of each other to form this kind of great big house almost. And they're meant to be aligned with the stars as well, the constellations. So
wow. You know what, it'd be quite interesting to talk about this in several years' time, because as much as I hope we don't go through anything massive again for a while, it's just inevitable that something will probably happen, and it'll be interesting to see how our artwork changes to what we go through.
Absolutely.
If any of you at home have had any life changes, how has art managed to help you, or help you to heal, help you to get through it, anything like that? Let us know your stories, because we are genuinely interested in them.
And pictures as well, if you want to share examples of what you've done during times of crisis, or even happy change, things like, we're not just talking about devastating events, but pregnancy and childbirth, and kind of moving countries, or kind of just traveling while your life is turned upside down. Literally. But anything like that, it'd be really, really interesting to kind of see what you've worked through, what you're working on, and so on.
And we then go on to our challenge now, don't we?
Yes.
Did we decide what we're going to be doing today?
No, we did not. But I have a sketchbook. Good.
I have a piece of paper and a pen.
It was full yesterday. Just in case nobody realised it was full moon yesterday. It was called Hunter's Moon. So there you go.
Right.
So what medium are we using today? And what are we going to do?
Well, I've got a pen.
Anybody want a pen? Any comments?
I think
life change.
Yeah. We could draw something that's represents a life change that we've gone
through. My brain's just going, no. I don't know. I'm so out of practice. Let's go. Even if it ends up being really figurative, I'll do it.
It's all good.
Okay, I'll put some music on, shall I?
Yes, perfect.
My brain just panics at these points and just goes, well, I don't know, what do you want me to do? Okay, so you'll have to, we might end up beeping some of this out. It is 2-pack with changes.
Yes, I think I'm done.
I love that song so much.
I love that song. It was on the radio today, it was.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Divine timing.
You just knew.
I think so. How did you get on?
Yes, quite well.
Oh, good.
Yes. Shall I show it?
Please.
It's a good job I'm wearing black today so you can see it. So this scribble drawing is, I've done it representational. So there's a path which represents life, and she's having to go into a dark
sorry, we'll crack it. Okay. Mm-hmm.
There we go. Right. Can you hear me now? So yeah, it's a path that represents my life that goes through a forest. So you have to get through the dark places to get to the lighter, happier places where the flowers and the sunshine is.
Right. Oh, that's really beautiful. That's really lovely sentiment.
It's got a sentiment rather than a drawing.
Well, I just got really predictable, I'm afraid. So I love butterflies and moths and stuff, and the idea of metamorphosis and evolving into something that spreads its wings and just kind of goes off and lives its life. So yeah, I want to colour this in. Actually, I don't have any pencils with me, but so it's I'd say it's maybe slightly too predictable, but I put words with it because I kind of felt like that's what I wanted to do. So yeah, so it says, it's going to be okay. You will fly, beautiful soul. And that's to each and every one of you. And I don't care if it sounds cheesy, I mean it. So there you go.
I like it. I don't think it's cheesy. I like it.
I think we all have goals and ambitions, and sometimes when there's too much change happening at once, you kind of get a bit overwhelmed. And I think, it's good to have a community like this, and we can just shout out to each other and we can help each other along, which is kind of, essentially what we're trying to do here. We're trying to be here for everybody, and kind of, we're just, connecting and day to day doing our own thing, but yeah, kind of supporting each other as well. So
yeah, if you joined with the art challenge, please do send us your photos. We will reshare them on our Instagram and Facebook pages, because we're really interested in seeing how you guys interact with our art challenges and what you create. So thank you so much for those of you who have watched this episode. We're incredibly grateful for all of you who spend your actual hard-earned time to sit there and watch us. Please don't forget to also like, comment and share, just because that will help boost the podcast and more people can see it. And yeah, thank you for being here, and make sure you do get in contact with us with any ideas of what you want to know about, any tips and hints you want us to talk about, any subjects you want us to talk about as well, because we're pretty happy to just tailor it to the way that you want us to talk about.
Yeah, if there's anything that you might find helpful in your practice or day to day, then yeah, just shout up. And next week we have a guest on who's do you want to tell us about?
We do. We have an incredible guest next week who turns music and sound into artwork. So next week we'll be talking about how artists use sound to create artworks. You're going to be honestly, it's so excited, and I can't wait to have her on. So do make sure to keep an eye out for that, and the links for that through Eventbrite.
Fab. Look forward to that one.
It's going to be good.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, hope everybody has a good week. As I say, give us a shout out, connect, send us a message, whatever. And yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you all next week. Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Enjoy your weeks.